This stupid offseason, man, this sucks. First, they take away Cam Akers that we've all been super hyped for and we were excited for. Then, Michael Thomas and all that news and stuff and all the other injuries that just come with the preseason and training camp and whatnot. But now, Travis Etienne, rookie running back hopeful that we were all very excited for, at least I was very excited for. First round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars, is done for the season with a Lisfranc injury that he will have surgery on. So this absolutely sucks because now the Lisfranc injury is a pretty significant injury, especially for running backs. It's an injury to the joint in your midfoot, basically the joint that connects your toes to all of your ankle bones and whatnot. I'm not a doctor. This is just what I found. And so that Lisfranc joint, the joint that's injured now, allows force to be transferred from, your legs all the way down to your toes into your foot and stuff that allow you to cut, walk, accelerate, do all that stuff that we need to do just as normal everyday humans, let alone in athletes that play at a high level competition football game. So then, with the surgery, they're going to fix ligaments, potentially some bones as well, drive some screws in there. It's just going to completely mess up his entire foot. And this is not good because you can see how impactful that injury sounds and is for, players, not only just NFL players, but running backs also very specifically as well. So this is a very scary injury for Travis Etienne. But we have seen others come back from Lisfranc injuries before. Taysom Hill actually had a Lisfranc surgery back at his senior year at BYU back in 2015, and then returned for his 5th year in 2016. Le'Veon Bell is probably actually the most notable NFL player and running back with a Lisfranc injury in recent history as well. He also had a Lisfranc injury in the preseason of his rookie year, though the biggest difference is that he actually didn't require surgery like Travis Etienne is, and he only actually missed 3 games in the 2013 season and still went on to be Le'Veon Bell. So that doesn't feel like it's all too comparable because Le'Veon Bell didn't require surgery. Travis Etienne is requiring surgery, and Edwin Porras, the football injury doc from Fantasy Points, tweeted out that there is a 21% production dip the first year after Lisfranc for any NFL player, which is going to be really scary. And that is, basically worst case scenario for a rookie running back like Travis Etienne. So the biggest problem for him now is that he's going to miss the entire 21 season, and then next year he'll be a 23-and-a-half-year-old running back coming off of a volatile and unpredictable injury who still has yet to take a meaningful snap in an NFL game. And what also sucks is that Etienne was already being valued in Dynasty as a mid to back end RB1 around guys like Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, the 2019 guys, and Sanders, Montgomery, and Josh Jacobs. That's already where he was being valued for Dynasty. And so now I think that his value is going to drop pretty significantly down to, I think, is a fringe RB25, which is actually where Cam Akers has found himself now. And that is basically the borderline between all the starting running backs, the first sure starters, and then all the guys who are either in some sort of a committee, pass catching backs, or very high priority backup running backs like James Robinson being down in that kind of area range. And that drop is probably going to be about a 3-round drop in ADP for Travis Etienne. So my advice for you for Travis Etienne, if you have him in Dynasty,
I've got one recommendation. Ready? Sell, sell, sell. Abandon ship.
If you can sell for any future first, no matter if you're competing, if you're rebuilding, I'm in on all of that because I just don't want to deal with the volatility and the unpredictability that's going to come with Travis Etienne and his future dynasty value, his future production. I don't want to deal with that. If I can just kind of reset my clock with a future first, maybe grab a different running back or pivot to a wide receiver, that is much more what I want to do. So selling for any future first, in my opinion, I think is a smart move for dynasty owners, whether you're rebuilding or competing. Then, of course, the second aspect of this is James Robinson. James Robinson is going to get a huge boost in value as well as production for the 2021 season. I've already seen people like Matthew Berry ranking James Robinson as a fringe to borderline RB1 in redraft for 2021 because he's going to assume the same role that he had last year. And a reminder that he was the RB7 last year, and he was able to do that on a team that was 30th in points per game, 31st in rush attempts, and 32nd in the league in rushing touchdowns. He was absolutely fantastic, and that is what James Robinson can bring to the table on a really bad Jacksonville Jaguars team. So this is a fantastic opportunity for James Robinson to prove that he is a legit starting running back. I mean, I feel like he already did that last year, but he can do that again as another year removed from a UDFA with actual legit NFL production on his resume. And his career upside at this point now could be Chris Carson. If you remember, Chris Carson did really well as an undrafted free agent for the Seattle Seahawks as well. And then because he had that undrafted free agent tag on him, the Seahawks then still felt comfortable that they could take a first-round running back in Rashad Penny to battle with Chris Carson and, in their opinion, win out that job. But, Rashad Penny was dealing with injuries and battled through all that, even still up to this day. And Chris Carson has remained the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks and has been fantastic for fantasy football over the last few years, still up to this day in 2021. So that, I feel like, is the ultimate upside that you're receiving with James Robinson as a undrafted free agent running back. But if you have James Robinson and you're looking for advice in terms of what to do with him, my advice would be to try to sell James Robinson for a more stable starting running back. If you are a competing team, try to sell him for a Joe Mixon, an Austin Eckler, maybe a David Montgomery, that type of running back that we know has a little bit more longevity than James Robinson does because of Travis Etienne coming back potentially in 2022. Or if you're not a contender and you are rebuilding, try to sell for that future first. The same advice that I had for Travis Etienne. I think any future first, I would absolutely be sending James Robinson away if you are a rebuilding team. And if you can't do that, if you can't sell James Robinson for those types of returns, then I would just advise holding on to him and seeing what you have in James Robinson, because I don't think his dynasty value is really going to climb all that much to the point that you're like sprinting to the bank to cash in on an asset that is just going to deplete back again next year. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think the dynasty community is a little reserved now with James Robinson with that UDFA tag. But I think that you can still use him for production this year, use him to help you potentially win a championship in 2021, and then see what happens next year. See if he maintains that starting role, see where Travis Etienne is with his injury, and maybe, if he doesn't at least keep the starting role next year for the Jaguars with a really good 2021 season, that might also make him a viable trade target for other NFL teams that want a legit starting running back, because he's still young enough. He's still on a rookie contract, still very cheap. So that could make him a very viable trade target for actual NFL teams, to where his situation could actually get better than being in a timeshare with Travis Etienne on a really bad Jacksonville Jaguars team. So there is that upside there with James Robinson. So that's going to do it. So please let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about Travis Etienne, what you're doing with James Robinson, if you're selling Travis Etienne or James Robinson, if you're buying either one of these two guys. If you have questions about one of them from your dynasty teams, let me know and let me hear all that stuff down in the comment section. And with that all being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch y'all later.